And welcome again to the Survival Report Podcast. Survival Report Podcast, available, hosted on our forums at survivalandpreparedness.com. Again, hosted two ways, survivalandpreparedness.com, our forum site, another free information site we do. And some of the podcasts, not all, some of the podcasts are available on our YouTube channel, and the direct link for that is survivalreport.net. Survivalreport.net. The day is April the 15th, tax day, unfortunately, in the United States. So we're recording for that day, April the 15th. Lots going on. We're going to have a good discussion today about nuclear protection. We haven't covered that in a while. I do have some other resources out on the net along those lines. Unfortunately, when that was recorded, that was 5-6 years ago, 7 years ago maybe, something along those lines. I was a chunky monkey. I was a lot heavier than what I am now. So I look back at those videos, some of those older videos that on buildanark.net, where I was probably in the 260 maybe range, something around that. And even some of the the ones we did with the Paw Productions channel, a.k.a. Dave in Idaho and everything, the original bucket packing video and some of those. And I was probably 240-ish or so there. I was a big boy. And lost a lot of weight, weighing in here recently, about 180 to 185. Had gotten as low as 171, but I look like a crazy crackhead in that. So, found a good stasis point for balance of muscle I needed to do the work that I regularly do, the fighting styles and all that good stuff, and some of the grappling. And also, just to look a little bit better, to not look like a crackhead in that. And unfortunately, in the cut, I lost a lot of muscle as well. So, kind of balanced out. I feel like as long as I don't get much over about 187, I'm comfortable. And much under, 180, I feel like I'm losing some muscle mass in that as well too. So, good thing to do, and we're going to have a video upcoming with a really easy way to lose weight. It is one of the biggest problems in the prepper and survivalist movement right now. Is 90% of the folks that you meet in this sort of thing are out of shape, and that's kind of important. Survival situations are going to be stressful situations, going to be situations where we're required to work past our normal comfort zone by our body, our mind, our spirit, even all that good stuff. So you might as well start getting used to that now, guys. There isn't going to be any magic pill. There isn't going to be any, one weird trick, or there isn't going to be any, adrenaline will get me through and I will rise to the situation. No. You'll end up doing, as I've seen and as I've done myself in training, what everybody else does. At some point, you'll just, you'll hit a peak of exhaustion. You'll start making excuses in your mind, all that good stuff as well, too. So, guys, keep in mind with these podcasts, I'm challenging you. I'm challenging you to think about how your situation is. Think about where your mind's at. Had a couple people pissed off because, I had the audacity to say that, if you're always expecting something for nothing, you have an entitlement mentality. And, there's a lot of people that, act like they're staunch conservatives and, play the, they'll never get my guns and I'm such a hardcore conservative and blah, 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 blah. But really, in their mind and in their action, they're takers. They never support anybody who's doing things to help them. They're just always looking for something for nothing. And, of course, that's what's effing our country right now, guys, is and that mentality, that entitlement mentality, does cross over into the preparedness and survival movement as well. Don't kid yourself on that. Don't kid yourself on that. So, if you get pissed off at something I say, guys, hey, that doesn't bother me. I don't care. That's not the end of the world. I'm not here to, as it says, in the latter days, men will look for preachers with itching ears, to, basically tell them a nice soft message, something they want to hear, that sort of thing. And I'm not saying I'm a preacher, but what I'm saying is people do the same thing in the survival and preparedness movement. They want to believe the fiction stories that they'll be able to, stay in their subdivision and, throw an ad hoc group together with a bunch of people they don't know down the block that aren't trustworthy. And they want to believe that they can, not get their family involved in their preparedness, and that, their wife, who probably belittles them for it now, is going to go, "My hero!" "Oh, thank you. You squirreled away these cans of tuna. Oh, you saved us. Now I love you. Oh, let's have sex." And this male fantasy bullshit. And, hey, guys, if I get you thinking about stuff like that and get you start to, it's probably going to piss you off at first. That's what happens sometimes when we break new ideas into people and we kind of get them out of their comfort zone. This is what survival's about, guys. It isn't always going to be comfortable, nor is it always going to be convenient. But safety and security, comes before comfort and convenience if we're truly going to survive. If it's just an academic thing, if we're just sitting on our butt, watching a bunch of YouTube videos, never doing anything with the information, making lists of stuff we're never going to buy or skills we're never going to learn, or doing research for years and years and years on stuff we're never going to purchase or never going to do and all that good stuff, then it's just academic. It's just a joke, and that's not my flavor. There's plenty of other people out there that do that very same thing that'll pander to you. I'm not one of them. So, if that's pissing you off, hey, shut it off. Turn the YouTube channel, click on another site, whatever. Plenty of people out there will tell you that, sure, you can stay right where you are and just, stock a couple days of canned foods and, live in suburbia around, 6 million starving people, and everything will be rosy-dozy when the time comes. Your neighbors will band together with you in your subdivision, and guess what? When you're, dead, falling on a knife 18 times backwards one day, maybe as you're bleeding about this conversation. So, I'm here to help educate people who really want to survive, who really want to look objectively at their situations. I do the same thing myself, guys. I kidded myself, tagging off the, segue back to the weight issue I talked about earlier. I kidded myself about that a hell of a long time. Why? Because I could get up and I could do those patrols. I could get out and I could do that hike. And I'd go on these crazy hikes, guys from some of the forums would have in, the middle of summer in Florida, where we'd go, 4 miles an hour essentially carrying packs and, the deepest, darkest reaches of the Ocala National Forest. And guess what? I was always right up at the front, even carrying, essentially 100 extra pounds just on my, on my belly right then. Back then. So I kidded myself about that. I thought, I can do what I need to do. And I was practicing, doing all the combatives and stuff like that. And I was able to do them, and I was able to, get the knockouts, get the tap outs, all that good stuff as well. So I was kind of deluding myself. It was like, well, I'm not doing too bad, and then of course this is the mindset everybody falls into. It's just like people when they get out of debt, or they're working on getting out of debt. They make a little progress, and it's like, okay, I paid off, this $79 Amoco gas card, and I still have, 10,000 on this Visa, and 3,000 on this, and 500,000, whatever the hell on the house, and 50,000 on this, mommy bus SUV or whatever. But I'm not doing too bad. I look at Bill. Now, Bill, oh man, he's a poop creek, he's worse off than I am. So we start doing these little comparison things like that. And, who gives a damn where Bill's at? Who gives a damn where I'm at? Who gives a damn where you're at? The only one it should matter to is you. And, so long story short, what I realized as I got further and further into it is I could do all the same things I was doing before. I just did them much better. I just did them much faster. I moved better, evading strikes. I moved better on the ground. Was able to run faster, slightly farther, carry my gear better, all that good stuff. Maybe slightly less of it, because of the fact that, didn't have the, 5 extra yards of, room on the pistol belt or in the chest rig because, it didn't have to cover as much, food storage on my body and everything. But, so don't get in a place, guys, where you're never willing to challenge yourself, where you're never willing to grow. It's like some good trainers say, you can either know or you can think you know. And that's really what it's about is, for survival and that and for what we're doing. This isn't play school stuff. This isn't academic. If it's academic, like I said, shut me off. I'm going to say things that are uncomfortable for you. I'm going to make you think about your attitude, your affections, your actions, your, where your heart is, where your family's at with this, all that sort of thing. And you don't want to hear that. You want to hear some nice little puffy speech about how you'll be able to make it fine in the city as long as your maid comes in and, blah, 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 and, things weren't that bad, and yada, yada, yada. That's fine. There's plenty of people out there that'll tell you those tales, guys. That's, go ahead, I'm here to challenge you. I'm here to challenge myself. Because if we're not growing, what the hell are we doing with our life? That's kind of my philosophy on it is I want to always be growing mentally, spiritually, physically, stronger, faster, whatever the hell. Life doesn't end at 40, guys. Life doesn't end at 50. I know a lot of guys, knew a judoka for many years that, he was 49 years old, and the dude could do cartwheels and backflips and all this crazy stuff, and he had some sick throws, and everybody, there's guys that I train with regularly in their mid and late 50s and stuff like that. Don't underestimate those guys just because they're old. Forget about it. I've seen a lot of 19, 20, mid-20s guys come in straight from the Army. They're badass. That's what they believe in their mind. And then they get their butt handed to them by a 53-year-old guy. And no, that's not me. I'm not 53 years old, and I never brag about myself in that regard, okay? Because, we're all learning. We're all striving to do better. Anywho, don't be afraid to challenge yourself, and challenge your thought pattern as well, guys. Like I said, you got a few people pissed off by saying, essentially the entitlement mentality has crept into the preparedness movement. Well, it is. Look around. Look how many people want something for nothing. That's what that's all about, guys. It's not just, some ghetto queen with, 16 illegitimate children's and, her pimp daddy, boyfriend. It's white folks, black folks, yellow folks, green folks, whatever. It's everywhere now, guys. It's streamed into your TV. It's streamed in, on the internet, the whole 9 yards. It's everywhere. And to be honest, it's a flippin' cancer. And, that's what's going to destroy our country. It's what's destroying our country now. So we need to recognize that when that comes up in ourselves. We need to, be supportive of people that support us and all that good stuff. And that's not really like some hard concept or something that should be, groundbreaking or, oh my God, he went there. It is what it is. I've never met anybody. I have 27 years in this, guys. 27 years actually interacting with people, being part of real groups, not, I talk with JoJo on the internet and, I'm in Florida and he's in Alabama or he's in Idaho and we have a group. Bullshit. That's not a group. That's just some dude you talk to on the net, or some guy you met and went shooting with one time, and you never talked to him, but once every 4 or 5 months and you've never done anything else with him. That's not a group. That's just some dude you went shooting with one time. Let's keep it, let's say what it is. But, so I've experienced a lot of this stuff, guys. I've seen how a lot of things have changed in the movement and things like that as well, too. So just something to think about there. Lots going on with the whole, Korean deal, big drop in gold and silver prices today, all that good stuff. I wouldn't be overly worried about that. Might be a good buying opportunity, that sort of thing like that. In my experience, most people get into precious metals far too soon than what they should. So often we see guys buying gold, buying silver when, number one, they can't feed their family for a year, or, they lack basic equipment. They maybe have a couple of firearms, but they've never had any actual professional training. They're not willing to spend, 1,000 rounds a year in training, because it's so expensive, but I got to go and buy some gold and silver. Rather put the money in training, but, that's just me. It is what it is, guys. It might be a good buying opportunity with the big drop. I think as of earlier, gold was down almost like $100 for the day, something like that. After 14 years of living at my survival retreat, 17 years essentially of working the land there, and 27 years of preparing, I still buy very little gold and silver. There's always something else to put your money in. More fruit trees, some additional fencing to upgrade security, that new set of, night vision or a thermal detector or something like that, or, a little bit more, freeze-dried food or something like that. Ammo so we can keep training, all that good stuff as well too. So for me, it's, I may buy something if, may buy some silver today or something like that if it stays low. I don't know if it's going any lower. I don't really care. It's, for me, it's not a buy for the shit hits the fan. I buy precious metals just as another way to save money for the long term. And that's essentially it. I won't be flashing any precious metals if bad times happen, because I think that's a hell of a good way to make yourself a target. And I think that's honestly a pretty stupid approach to it, to be honest. I'm not going to buy any, anything for that reason. Ditto, wrote an article back in the 90s in American Survival Guide magazine about barter and talked about, the problems with using gold and silver, the fact that it's going to make you a target, and ditto with cigarettes and alcohol, and obviously the common sense why you don't want to barter ammunition with people you don't explicitly trust, because you'll probably get that ammunition back, and maybe not in a good way, so. Anywho, big dip in the markets as far as gold and silver. The Korean thing, a lot of folks are kind of, starting to ask a little bit more questions about nuclear stuff, all that good things. Guys, essentially, what we're looking at there probably is, a ground burst, type platform, maybe an air burst type platform, possibly missile delivered, possibly a suitcase nuke or something, smuggled in with a, load of Happy Meal toys from China or something. Who knows? Is the threat from North Korea in that regard real? It's open for discussion. I don't think we should underestimate them. I think, we've done a lot of underestimating of of Asiatic people in the 20th century, and it didn't really work out in our favor. Whether it was Pearl Harbor, or even the resolve of them fighting in Vietnam, or the resolve of them fighting in Korea, or certain things like that as well too. So I think we need to be really careful to not underestimate our enemies. And yeah, there's he's got a lot to lose and blah, 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 but not everybody thinks rationally like that. Number one, I think personally North Korea is being used as a proxy for China. I think this is something that China will use to further grind us down a little at a time, to further tighten the noose economically, all that good stuff as well too. So that's who I think is the real long-term enemy. I don't think some chubby little dude in, I'm so Ronry, son or whatever there is that big of a threat to the United States. However, stupid things happen. So we need to be prepared for that. And, of course, the nuclear threat has never went away. It's always been there, guys, despite all the crap from the media, despite the good talk of, the communists are our friends now, and all this ridiculous stuff. Russia's still got plenty of nukes pointed our way. China does as well. All that good stuff. So, it's important to be educated on the nuclear subject. what we're talking about essentially with North Korea is, as far as I see it, several possibilities. One is a missile attack, which would probably be dealt with pretty easily from either the Aegis cruisers or, any missile defense thing that we already have going. And I believe we already do have something like that in effect. However, a suitcase-type nuke or, in the back of a, Honda Civic or whatever like that, driven into a couple of cities, yeah, that's a real possibility. In that regard, we would be looking at a ground burst. A ground burst is essentially any detonation where it touches the ground. An airburst is something that, like with a missile, or I guess you could, put a device inside a plane and fly it over a city and jihadi suicide bomber type deal, detonate the nuke that way as well. Essentially, what you're looking at is the airburst does more damage. The ground and the nice thing about an airburst, especially if it's high enough, it produces very little fallout, which is nice from a long-term standpoint as well. Causes more destruction, but again creates less fallout. A lot of people like to say an airburst creates no fallout. Well, that's not entirely true. So the easiest way to say that is simply creates much less fallout. A ground burst on the opposite end, it's going to obviously create damage, but it's not going to create as much damage comparatively, kiloton for kiloton or megaton to megaton to an airburst. However, since it's essentially touching the ground or on the ground level, it's going to, it's where you see these, the idea of a crater and all that good stuff. It's where when the nuke detonates, basically everything that's in that vicinity gets sucked up into the mushroom cloud. The cloud, the cloud expands and all that good stuff, and basically everything that's in there is essentially made radioactive. And then it fallout, and yeah, I'm keeping this kind of simple for folks that have never, heard of all this good stuff before, because you never know who your audience is going to be with these. But it falls out, back to Earth, because, what goes up must come down, all that good stuff. So, what happens is you have a lot of immediate fallout, which is stuff that falls in a relatively short pattern around the target. And then you have more of what's called delayed fallout, and this is smaller particles, things like that, might go around weather patterns and go around for a couple weeks, slowly, falling to the ground, and that as well, too. And there's actually, it's nothing we need to really be concerned with, but there's essentially another type that just kind of drifts around for a couple of years and all that good stuff. We're not going to worry about that. So essentially what we're looking at is, number one, what would be the targets? Okay, well, this goes back to our just good old basic survival planning. All right, we don't want to live in New York City. We don't want to live in a huge area that's got a high population density, i.e. a city, something like that. We don't want to be in an area that has nuclear targets. This is what a lot of this new crowd can't understand with the whole why can't I make it in Atlanta? How many dozen reasons you want me to give you? How long you got, buddy? That sort of thing. But nuclear targets is definitely one of them. From a specifically North Korea standpoint in that, it might be, I doubt it's going to be a full-on, old school Russian Cold War scenario, every major city over, 100,000 is nuked and all military bases and blah, 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 blah. I think what you're looking at is maybe a dozen or less hits. It will be more symbolic than anything else, but, in the right places and all that good stuff, it could definitely cripple us. Look at how, a hurricane that hits the Gulf Coast, in, 2005 with Katrina, basically screwed up that area of the country for, an extended period of time. Now, what if that was, a nuclear attack on New Orleans, a nuclear attack on, two other cities, within the general region, Houston, something like that. Now we're talking about a much, much bigger thing versus a localized, small-scale disaster. So good. Your basic survival planning. Staying away from cities, getting away from nuclear targets, all that stuff that comes into play there. What is a nuclear target? Look at your maps around where you live. Is there, you need to know this stuff anyway for your general survival planning. Is where are the nearest military bases? Where are the nearest cities? How does the prevailing wind patterns work in relation to where you live? You might go, oh well, I'm golden. I live 2 hours outside of Atlanta or Jacksonville or whatever else. Some other major city or major target area. But you might be, that 2 hours or whatever, you might be downwind from that. And again, in an airburst type scenario, not as big of a problem, but, still a problem. But in what would be more likely with something like North Korea, a ground burst type scenario, yeah, you're going to get fallout. You're going to get fallout, within a couple hours of, probably first day or something of the attack. So we need to kind of know all these things. Now, one thing I want to cover, because we're already kind of running out of time in that too, is one big misconception is, and this came up on the forums also as well, is people asking about, like potassium iodide and all that good stuff, Ki and everything, and some of the variants. And what often happens is, none of the big places, make this misinterpretation, but I have seen this misinterpretation by numerous small vendors at preparedness expos over the years and things like that. Okay, you need to understand what potassium iodide does and what it doesn't do. All right, it is not a radiation cure. It is not a radiation blocker. All right, it doesn't keep you from getting radiation sickness. Okay, what it does is it blocks one specific organ in your body from the uptake of one specific isotope. Okay, one specific organ in your body, your thyroid gland, from one specific isotope, radioiodide 138, 131. It's been a while since I taught nukes, guys, so nobody needs to, jump me on the whether it was 131 or 138. Just put it down if you know. You can post it, whatever. I'm going off the top of my head here. I'm not going off with notes or any sort of thing like that. So anyways, is it a radiation cure? No. Is it you take this and radiation's going to just magically bounce off your body and not affect you? No. Is it going to, keep you from getting bone cancer and things like that from strontium-90 or something like that? No. So you have to understand its limitations. Radioiodide also has a relatively short half-life. Shelf life. See what we normally talk about, shelf life. Half-life. So essentially, I believe it's like 8 to 10 days, something like that. So again, it's not a long-term thing where you're going to need to, take it for 100 days worth or something crazy like that. You're only going to need a relatively short supply of it, and that's why you normally see it sold in like a 2-week supply and things like that as well too. Now, how are you going to get that isotope? All right. Well, from a survivalist standpoint, what are we going to do? Okay, once we figure out that a couple of cities got nuked in the U.S. or whatever, we're going to go in our basement or we're going to go on our shelter, hopefully if we have one. We're going to improvise whatever we need to do, get mass around us, even if it's old books and photo albums and all your buckets of rice and things like that. You're going to basically build like a little rat hole and you're going to climb in it and you're going to push all that stuff around you. Again, if you don't have a basement, if you don't have a shelter, and we'll cover this more in the next time as well. I'm just giving worst case, you got nothing to work with, type of deal. Anyway, you're going to not go outside for 2 weeks. You're not going to, go check on the neighbors and, do the Ben Affleck and Sum of All Fears, making, snow angels in the fallout, ridiculous crap, that you see in these movies. You're going to basically lay low for an extended period of time, at least 2 weeks. You're going to be busting out your survey meters. You're going to be checking your radiation regularly so you can see what's going on, how fast it is decaying. Are you getting new fallout from another target further downwind, that sort of thing as well too. These are all things you have to know about. These are all things you have to educate yourself on. If you go to buildanarc.net, I believe it's under how-to videos, and there is an old video we did. Again, understand that I was a heck of a lot fatter then. When you look at the video, I was almost 100 pounds fatter actually. But you can start getting educated there. It's called radiation monitoring and protection or something like that. Anyway, a seminar we did at a free camp out about 6 or 7 years ago, something along those lines. Anyway, check that out. We will be talking more and doing more videos on this genre as well. Thanks for listening.